abuses, rape, burning of elderlies, I'm talking of senior citizens in their houses, villages that have been completely destroyed. As we talk now, mothers and children are giving birth in the bushes because they don't even have houses to go. And even if they go back to their homes, because they don't have homes because they've been urban, if they go back to their villages, they will all be killed. That's exactly what we're going on. And let me add this. What surprises us, what surprises Southern Cameroons, is that the world is doing like nothing is happening. Everybody pretends like nothing is going on. Remember, when it happened in Rwanda in 1994, I remember President Clinton saying it boldly, that it will never happen again, that we will never stand and see it happen again. But it is currently happening in Southern Cameroon. There is an active genocide going on in Southern Cameroon. I'm not exaggerating. Only God alone knows how many people have been killed. A few days ago, Amnesty International alluded to some of those things, but that was just an insignificant number of what is actually going on, because a lot of terrible things have happened there.
You know, it's interesting because we talk about neocolonialism. I'm glad you brought that term into the discussion, and you already, Dr. Chebe, mentioned it really, and you defined it, and Brother Tutmos gave it the term in this conversation. So bringing that point home, though, that the role of France in not just Cameroon's struggle, but all of West Africa, dealing with 14 neo-colonies, because it never really gave them up.
Not at all.
And it depends. It's not just a matter of, well, we're going to maintain some political control and manipulation of these places. But like you said, exploiting the land to the point where France, as we know it today, depends on that exploitation to exist as we know it today.
They confess it themselves.
They confessed it.
The former French president Jacques Chirac actually said it, that if they are unable, if they ever lost Africa, then they will become a third world nation just like all other third world nations. So they are conscious of it, and they will do everything possible to make sure the status quo stays. Remember, the word coup d'etat is a French word.
Yeah.
And that is because that is what they use. Any government that comes and doesn't want to toe the line, doesn't want to listen and follow their instructions, they will send you out.
Yes.
If you remember, when they were forcing African nations to have independence and sign, in fact, there is a contract signed by Francophone African countries to remain and make sure the French get anything that they want from these colonies. If you remember very well, one African nation that refused signing that document is Guinea.
Yes.
In the time of Sekou Touré.
Yes.
And you know what happened?
They paid for it.
They paid for it.
Yes.
And now, if France was willing to go to that length to destroy roads, burn typewriters, destroy anything that they had ever put in that country, then you know what the stake that they had. They wanted to set an example and make sure no other African country ever dares try to do that.
So let me ask you, brothers, this just to counter that a little bit, as well as we know that that's going on and that's the case. Speak to the fact of how Africa really is rising right now. Like, have you heard the latest speech from the Ghanaian president on how he's continued to elaborate on how Africa needs to continue to not only do for itself, but find a way to get control of the natural resources that, pardon me, that is being taken away from us. And we see, excuse me, we see in Cameroon, as you just said, that's where a lot of natural resources are really centered, and that's why France and everyone else has continually got their hands in that region and continue to destabilize it. But Brother Ted, I'll ask you first, and then Brother Emmanuel, that it is a lot of tragedy going on right now in Cameroon, but how do we get that vibe for revolution like what's going on in Burkina Faso and all the countries that are close in proximity to Cameroon. But Cameroon is still, you know, like you just said, you made the reference to it being close to Rwanda back in the 90s.
Yeah,
So it's almost like totally the opposite way of.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I mean, it's not a coincidence that it was France
That started it.
operating
If arming the Hutu
Rwanda.
rebels. I know
and when
this.
you study it, I remember distinctly. It was Hotel Rwanda. I remember
Yes.
that wasn't. It didn't give a lot of details. Idris Elba's first movie is a movie called Sometimes in April, and he played Hutu Rwandan officer
Yes.
who married a Tutsi woman. So they wanted to kill him anyway, even though he was just married to a Tutsi woman. He was Rwandan and Hutu and in the military. So you have these kind of ethnic distinctions also when it comes to that. But when you study it and study the way that France operates and see what they did around the situation of Rwanda and what it had to do with, and that wasn't, it was for strategic purposes with U.S. backing, of course, as was shown in the movie, but also we have to learn from how they operated at that time. Now that we see the violence escalating, and we know that that's how they get down. That's how much they depend on their economy depends on it. They don't have a wide territory like the United States and Russia and all that. They have to get their money from those African territories.
Absolutely.
And so this violence that we're seeing being escalated, is there anything done regionally? I mean, I know that a lot of the brothers and sisters from Southern Cameroon are fleeing to Nigeria, and so has the African Union or anybody, you know, to answer a way forward? What do we look at as what should be done from the progressive grassroots activist aspect to, you know, all the way across the spectrum, the academics and all the way up to the government level? Which way do we go forward with trying to help?
There are a number of things that you have touched on this. The first one is the issue of Ghana. Beware that Ghana is a francophone African country.
Mm-hmm.
So what they inherited from the British is the Anglo-Saxon system, which is a different way. They have a different culture. They are able to talk. They are a little bit more independent, which is very different from what the French left their colonies. So it is no news. It's no something strange if you hear the Ghanaian president speak the way he does, because he has a different culture and a different way of looking at things. And it goes across many of the Anglo-Saxon systems. But for the French, their idea is we have to make sure these people stay subjugated under us so that we should be able to control and receive all our resources. They know if they don't use that approach, they are finished economically. Mm-hmm. And they will do everything to make sure they enforce that. That is why, over time, their playbook has been make sure you never allow the people to be united. Always divide them as much as possible. It's unfortunate I'm talking about division in this case, which is actually what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
But because they know if you are united, there will be a serious force to be able to break. And they have maintained that. Now, coming about the African Union, I'm so ashamed. I'm an African. And I'm so ashamed to say that the African Union is not doing what they are supposed to do. The African Union is not looking into the well-being of Africa. The leaders of these nations, unfortunately, it's a group where they meet, have some party, have fun, and go home. And when something is happening in another country, they pretend like it doesn't concern them. But our case is so unique in the sense that our people have taken our problem to different levels. They took it to the African Human Rights Court, where we won. They took it to different places where it has been established that we are a people, that we are supposed to determine our own destiny. Only God knows why Africa has decided to stay mute. But to be fair, there are individuals, there are some respectable African individuals who are not staying silent, who are speaking truth. A very good example is Professor Lumumba. I don't know whether you guys have
Yes,
watched it.
yes.
Oh, yes.
PLO
Oh, yes.
Lumumba, yes.
He's a good example.
Yeah.
He has said it. There are some other leaders around Africa that are saying it. But those who are supposed to make the decision, they can keep playing ostrich. But we are not going to let any of those deter us. We are going to restore our independence irrespective of the challenges that are thrown on us. Because the die is cast. And we are not turning back.
Yes. Now, as we close this discussion, and we thank those who have been listening, we thank you, Dr. Chebe, for spending your time with us on the Friday Night Drum, and we hope this won't be the last time. But as we close, we've been talking about the struggle for self-determination, and we're here in the 60th year of African Liberation Day, where we mark every year our forward progress toward our total liberation of Africa. And so, just give us some final thoughts, because we talked off the air about Pan-Africanism and this idea of African unity. But as you mentioned with the African Union, unity can happen, but what are we uniting under? If we're uniting into a system that is about liberation, or just about being complicit with neocolonialism. And so, looking at our situation in southern Cameroon, in Amazonia, and our issue as African people still struggling for self-determination in 2018, 60 years on from the first African Freedom Day, and now 60 years of African Liberation Day.
Let me say this. I know some people have heard our story. I know some people are reluctant to join us, help us free ourselves from the fangs of this bloody dictator in southern Cameroon. But, and they have good examples, they have good reasons. We know the situation of Sudan. We know the problem that happened in Somalia and other places. They want to point those as examples. But what is so unique and so different with southern Cameroon is that southern Cameroon has one of the highest educated people around the world. This is not an adventurism that we are getting into. I personally, if I don't see that we are going for freedom, I wouldn't be doing all this. I wouldn't be part of it. As we talk, one of the things that people don't know is that southern Cameroon already has a government in exile. And we are putting everything in order. I'm talking about democratic ways. We are setting up constitutions. Somebody like myself, I'm a coordinator of southern Cameroon in the southeast. I wasn't appointed. I'm elected. And I listen to my people. I don't make decisions on my own. Mind you, southern Cameroons had ruled themselves from 1953. When we abandoned Nigeria and went back home, we became independent. We controlled our affairs. We had a prime minister. We elected our leaders, and some were unelected. Others came from opposition and won. So we have a culture of democracy. We're not starting from scratch. So those who are concerned that our things might degenerate when we become independent, far from it. It wouldn't happen. Now, this is what I want all your listeners to do for us. Please, if you can call your leaders, be it your congressman in the United States, be it the senators, be it even community leaders, if you can go online and read about this and share about this problem, if you can tweet to your friends, if you can post it on Facebook, if you can make the whole world know about the carnage, about the genocide going on in southern Cameroon, I want to think that at a point in time, people will now turn to the real angels that are hidden somewhere in their hearts, and they'll want to stand up and do the right thing, which is to help free southern Cameroon.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Chebe, for spending your time with us. I hope that you feel that you found a camaraderie here with us in the Friday Night Drum, and we'll definitely continue to work together towards self-determination.
Thank you so much for the crew, and thank you for having me. It was a pleasure coming to you once more.
Yes.
I look forward for more time where we can even discuss even more as we have updates.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. So,
Thank you,
family,
Joe.
stay tuned to What Good Is a Song with Friday Night Drum here at 89.3 WRFG. Do not change that station. Do not change your dial. Stay tuned.